Hey there guys, and welcome to another tutorial video. Before we start, I just want to say a big thank you for everyone who's been watching my content. If you want to help me out in the growth of the channel in any way, it would really help if you were to share out the videos to anyone who might be interested in learning how to do Vtuber models, or if anyone's just generally interested in animating in Live2D. Everything that you learn to create a Vtuber model can certainly be applied to making rigs for animation. So yeah, generally speaking, if there is anyone who's into VTubers or wants to make their own VTuber model or wants to even make their own animation, feel free to share out these videos. Again, thank you for watching the content, and let's get to the video. Now this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a form of idle animation. So idle animation can be seen as looping animation that plays out on the basis of the breathing parameter in Live2D. If you're looking to create passive movement without you moving with the X and Y parameters, you would have to use the breathing parameter to create these automatic and looping animations. Now, a thing to bear in mind obviously with the breathing parameter, if I was to show you in the physics scene blending settings here, we have this breathing interval going on with our character. This animation is completely set to be this way. You can't change the pace of this breathing movement. It is set in FaceRig anyway. I'm not sure if it's something that you can edit in other software, but in FaceRig you cannot change the pace at which your character is breathing. It's a set pace, it's a set animation, nothing can be done about it. That does create an element of limitation, but you can work with it still. You can still create a passive, looping, auto animation that plays out on your Vtuber model. So just to kind of run through what I've done here, this is my jelly character. I think some of you guys might recognize this one from the beginner's tutorial. I wanted to add a transformation to this character. So I have a on and off toggle for it, like this. So this is technically a special pose on and off switch. And I can also change the colour of my character now as well. If I was to move my character right now, you can see everything is following the movement of the body and the head as well. Just to touch base on how I've done it, I've done very little other than put all the extra new parts into the already established deformers and rotations. So say for example with the body, I put the body within the main body deformer, so right next to the main body piece here as well, and as a result when you change the colour it adopts the same movement as the original colour that we have for the jelly. I've got these little wing bits for my character's head, and that's been placed within the head rotation as well as within the warp deformer for the head as well. So if I was to rotate the head like this, you can see that the wings also follow suit. And the warp deformer for the head has the X and Y parameters, and that means that I can allow the wings on the head to follow with the movement of the head too. I've also created individual rotation deformers for each part of the wing for the head, so that I can individually rotate them like this. I have them in warp deformers as well, just in case I want to just move them around like this, but it's very unlikely that I'd do that, but it's still a nice secondary movement if I'm needing to actually move it in any way, shape or form. And finally we have the main wings behind the character too. I've also added rotations to this as well. There's also sparkles within the one rotation, and I can also rotate the secondary wing here as well. So I'm just going to quickly show you how you can add visual elements to your model even though you don't have it currently in your model files. Now you don't have to edit or duplicate your current model file for this to work. You can effectively make your own separate PSD file with all of the additional parts that you want to add to your model. In this case, I've got a file here called additional parts PSD. So if I drag this file over to here, it will ask you whether or not you want to create a new model file. Of course, you don't want to do that. You want to expand on what you already have for your jelly FaceRig in my case. So I'm going to click on my main model. If you click on OK, and instead of replacing your file like we did in the previous video, all you have to do is go on Add All Layers as New Art Mesh here, and then click OK. And there we go, we actually have the additional parts added to this model. You can literally take what you've got. In my case, I've got a Waluigi hat stars. You can effectively drag it where you want it to go. In my case, the Waluigi hat would probably be best suited if I position this behind the head bits there, so that it's a little bit more accurate to the perspective and such. So it's just as easy as that. All you have to do is just place everything where you need it to be placed, including your deformers here as well. But do make sure that once you've added these additional parts to your rig, you click on the Edit Texture Atlas button. Because you've effectively added new parts to your model, you have to make sure it's in your texture atlas. So if we click on this button, and here we have all of the extra parts that we just added to the model. Now, if you don't have this at all, just make sure that only unset objects is selected. It may be on all, like this. It depends on how you've been working with the texture atlas. So just make sure that you go on only unset objects here, and it has all of the new parts you've added to your model. Now just double click on each part, like this. And then go on Automatic Layout and click OK. Now your texture atlas is completely up to date. Now of course make sure that your parts have vertices so you can deform it. I go on the automatic mesh generator to add vertices. I go on this drop down here, click standard, and we've got vertices. So make sure you do that with every new part that you have. Or make your own vertices if you know how to do that. So I just wanted to also show you what I've done with the sparkles on the left. If I was to turn the transformation on, you can see that I've already mapped the breathing parameter so that we've got sparkles playing as an idle animation. This is achievable with just using this breathing parameter here. I'm super happy with how it's turned out, so I'll walk you through how I've made these sparkles as well in this tutorial. But we're also going to start rotating some of these bits here just to add a little bit more movement to the character's head, using these little wings that we've got around the base of the head. So to add this nice shimmering sparkle using the breathing parameter, I have it mapped out with the layers. If you can see here, we've got some sparkles merged together. And I've also got another layer here with some other little sparkles, and then another layer with another bunch of sparkles, and so on. Now, I want to make sure that I use different sparkles with different animation intervals just to make it a little nicer in terms of spontaneous movement. So I'm going to select these sparkles here in particular, and I am going to create 3 keyforms for the breathing parameter. I'm going to make sure that I'm highlighting the left keyform, and I'm going to bring the opacity down to 0. Then I'm going to go all the way to the end and bring the opacity down to 0 as well. So if I was to unhighlight the sparkles we just edited, you'll see that it appears only on the middle keyform and then disappears on the left keyform and the right keyform. So I'm going to highlight some new sparkles, click the 3 keyforms, and I'm going to lower the opacity on the middle keyform here. So again, varying up the opacity change. We don't do anything with the left and right keyforms, we just keep this one in the middle to 0. With these sparkles, I'm going to create 2 keyforms for the breathing parameter. I'm going to go to the far right, and I'm going to bring the opacity down to 0. And then finally, for the next set of sparkles, I'm going to make 2 keyforms, bring down to the left keyform here, and I'm going to bring the opacity down like this. So we're going to have a look at the physics scene blending settings. And I'm going to use the transformation. And you can see the sparkles play out. It was quite important to me to make sure that the right wing was different in comparison to the sparkles on the left wing. So there we go. When we use this toggle, and this applies if you're not using toggles as well, just to emphasize that point, you can create an idle animation using the breathing parameters. You can do this normally, you don't need to do a special pose or an on and off toggle for this to work. This same method can be applied without a toggle. As long as you've done it all within the breathing parameter, this will play out automatically and loop for the duration of you using your Vtuber model without having to toggle anything on and off, unless you choose to do so. Now that we've done the sparkles, I want to see if I can make these wings on the side of the head, and even these little antennas here, or feelers, whatever you want to call them, move a little bit as the character breathes in and out. So I'm just going to highlight these blue wing headpieces here, and I'm going to create 2 keyforms. As the character breathes out like this, I want to move the rotations of these head wings up like this slightly. And as the character breathes in like this, just going to bring it in slightly like that. I'm going to highlight the rotations for the red wings. Do the same thing, add 2 keyforms. As the character breathes out on the left, I am going to raise them up like this, like the other ones. Go to the yellow wing rotations. Create 2 keyforms. As the character breathes out, I'm going to raise the wings again, like this. So we've added some movement to the wings so far. Now these antennas, I haven't actually placed a rotation on these yet, but I wanted to show you how this works. If you hold down the control key and click, you can place the rotation wherever you want. So I'm going to put it around here. And you can also hold down the control key too to align the handle wherever you want as well. Once you've done that, make sure you click on the freeze rotation. And I'm going to do the same for this one here. Control key, click, and then adjust to the way you want it to be. Freeze rotation. Now, again, we're going to highlight these 2, and we're going to create 2 keyforms for the breathing parameter. As the character breathes out, I'm going to see what happens if I make the antennas go the opposite direction, like this. Just to vary up the motion. And yeah, I quite like that actually. Like I say, it may need some refining, but that's the general premise of what we can do with the wings. So we've got some basic movement going on with the head wings as well for the idle animation that I've set in place using the breathing parameter. So let's see how it looks using the blending settings. So again, this is how the character will look in its idle state. It's just really down to what kind of idle animation you want to create. Now, what I would like to try and do is create a little bit of movement for the wings if I can. So again, I'm going to locate my wings here, and I'm going to create 2 keyforms. As the character is breathing out on the far left keyform here, I'm going to lift it up slightly like this. As you can see, we've added a little bit more movement to the wings. You don't have to use too much exaggerated movement. It's really just down to what you're going for. I'm gonna pick the left wing here, the bottom one, and I'm gonna add 2 keyforms and do the same thing on the far left. Once you've added the 2 keyforms, I'm going to make the wing go the opposite direction like this on the far left keyform. Now for the far right wing, we're going to do the same thing. Add 2 keyforms, and on this far left keyform, raise the wing up slightly like this. So like before, select the bottom right wing here. Create 2 keyforms, have this keyform highlighted on the left, and I'm going to slightly lower the wing like that. So again, if we look into the blending settings, you'll see that the wings now have a bit of movement to them. But just to emphasize, this can be used for literally anything. You could use it for tails, you can use it for any kind of necessary movement. There's only so much you can do, of course, but this can certainly add a little bit more movement to your character that is not just the breathing in itself. Of course, if you're looking to create additional movement for the wings, let's say, because they're now not moving because we've given them rotations, we can go in and create additional deformers for these pieces. Highlight the one wing here on the right, create a deformer, call it whatever you want, and we can also do a deformer here as well. Again, call it whatever you want. If we were to highlight these deformers now, we can add 3 keyforms to the X and Y parameter. So say for example, if the character is looking right, we can now edit both of them so that they move further to the back of the character like this. And then we can go Control-Shift-C and paste it into the bottom keyform here with Control-Shift-V. And then the same for the top keyform here, Control-Shift-V. So that sets the wing and creates a sense of the character's body moving, because the wing won't always be completely stationary. This is optional, of course, especially if you're doing a full frontal rig. Sometimes it's not necessary to create such an extreme sense of perspective, but that is an option. Now you can go in and edit it. I just edited the wing so that when my character looks up, the wings go down. I might just bring it up a little bit more though. It's a little bit more subtle. And then as the character looks down, I could make the wings go up slightly like this. So I can do the same for this too. As my character looks up, bring the wings down like that. As the character looks down, we can bring the wings up like that. It's a very basic way of just adding some slight perspective. You can also feel free to use the deformers just to edit it a little bit, just to kind of create a sense of it not being too flatly altered. But that's really up to you. Now, as you can tell, there is some physics going on. The reason why this is happening is because my main deformer for the main body is assigned to a physics parameter. I did that the wrong way. I should have done it in a separate deformer, like I did in the previous videos I've shown you now, more recently. But you can still achieve that effect. If you want to learn more about how physics works in general in Live2D, I have literally 2 videos that you can watch. One that's for hair movement and one that's for just basic jiggle physics involving this particular character. But as long as your wings are within the physics deformer, you'll be able to achieve the same movement that you're seeing right now. So with that guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was helpful in learning how to make your own idle animations. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in future. Let me know in the comments below if there is something that you would really like to learn more about, and I'll see if I can make a video about it in the future. Take care of yourselves out there guys, and thank you for watching.